Hey everybody, this is Sam over at the Foot Whisperer Reflexology Institute here with another foot reading video. Thank you again to everybody who keeps sending in your pictures of your feet for these video series. And if you would like your pictures read via video, please feel free to send them here. sam@footwhisperer.com is my personal email for the Institute, and I would love to take a look at your feet and read them in this video series as well. But for now, let's get right to it. And as a reminder, we are not going to DP or T, diagnose, prescribe, or treat. Instead, we are going to ACE, or assess, coach, and educate. Thank you guys so much, and hope you enjoyed the video. Alrighty, so first set of feet that we have in this video is from Suzanne. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for sending in your feet. Here is our first marker. So everything in the toes represents head and neck territory reflex-wise. We can see a lot of scrunching and a lot of retracting of the actual toes here in this shot. And this means that the neck joint, in terms of cervicals, everything from C1 and 2 to C7 is in the same state as Suzanne's toes. So very retracted, very withdrawn. You can see even some bubbling of the tissue indicating fluid buildup as well. Oddly enough, the toenails are pretty clean, so the sinuses are doing well, not really feeling so much pressure in the sinus cavities, but the structure of the neck is compromised, so that would lead me to believe that Suzanne may suffer from severe headaches, neck pain, even radiating down into the arms with carpal tunnel because those nerves start in the neck. So here is picture number 2. This is something that I really want my students to pay attention to. So when an arch has fallen, this is what it looks like. You can see the bubbling of the arch. This automatically indicates fluid and pressure buildup in the spine. Everything in the medial arch, which represents the spinal reflexes, relates to back pain. Here we can see one bubble, one kind of outward bulge about halfway down. That would put us at maybe T8, T9, T10, lower thoracic spine, and then we have a second kind of bulge right as we get into the belly of the low back. You can even see the tendon really contracting up into the medial malleolus, into that ankle. Using some fancy terms there, but again, just really want my students to be aware of how we're seeing the spinal reflexes really bubble in pressure. So obviously back pain would be a really common symptom that Suzanne would experience on a regular basis, and this would be the validating marker for why. Okay, marker number 3. Here's a very common marker that I see a lot, and this is waving and lining on the sole of the foot. Here, where the circle is, we have horizontal zones 3 and 4. Horizontal zones 3 and 4 are the home of the upper and lower digestive reflexes, and when we see waves like this, it's kind of like waves on the surface of the ocean. Waves on the surface of the ocean are caused by tremendous, powerful undercurrents. And here we have a lot of undercurrents happening in the digestive system. So irritable bowel is what this marker tends to represent. The lining, however, when we see severe, harsh lining in the same area, it indicates exhaustion. Any kind of break of the tissue, whiteness, or lining or cracks indicate that air symptomology, that severe weakness or drained feeling. So we have both irritation and irritability and kind of wavy digestive system, but also a lot of weakness, probably from that irritation. So Suzanne probably doesn't eat regular meals. When she does, it's probably on the go, not really sitting down and taking time to digest. This is what that marker tends to produce. So those 3 classic markers are actually a really great example. Thank you so much, Susan, again, for sending in your feet. We start with the neck and then move into the spine and then through the digestive reflexes. We can really see a lot through there. Okay. Our next set of feet, we had Anne send in her feet in the last video, but now we have Anne's mom. Thank you, Anne's mom, for sending in pictures of your feet. And here is our first marker. Okay, so toes, again, We've been getting a lot of toes in the pictures, or at least maybe a lot of people have neck issues, but here we can see that on the right foot, the third through fifth digits are very contracted. Maybe not so much the fifth, but you can really see the third and fourth have really withdrawn, as opposed to the left foot, where the toes are actually very forward and very open. So this to me indicates a couple things. One, on the right side of the body, because it's always right to right, left to left, on the right side of the body, Anne's mom's fourth and third zone, so oddly enough, again, upper and lower digestive, but also everything in the core has collapsed on the right side. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's mysterious side pain. Maybe it feels like a rib is always going out on that right side, but that withdrawal is what that represents, that kind of collapse of the core. But it's also into the toes, so it means that the neck will also be affected. When something is on the right side but not the left side, we have a past mental emotional context. So the fact that the third and fourth toes represent thoughts about the career and also family and relationships in the past, again, right foot, those were withdrawn. So instead of normal thoughts about kind of what she's doing, how she's being active, how she's contributing, and family and relationships, thoughts about that aspect of her life, both of those kind of mental aspects were very, very clouded and withdrawn. So that's what that would represent. But now, in the left side, we can see that the toes are perfectly open. So that kind of stint of mental withdrawal has completely erased. But it was very present. I'd give that timeline maybe 3 months, just based off my personal experience. Here is our next marker for Anne's mom, and this is a perfect example of a yellowing nail. I get a lot of people in my practice thinking that they have toenail fungus when they really don't. So toenail fungus, in my personal experience, tends to be very black and very gross looking. When the nail turns opaque or cloudy, or it has a yellowish tint, or it starts to harden and raise, that is not fungus. That is a distortion of the actual nail from my personal experience. And here we had that distortion of the nail very, very clearly. But it's on the left side. So again, we're talking about past and present influences here, but also the physical left side of the body. The influence of the big toe is everything mental. So the mental aspect of Anne's mom presently is a little bit more what we would call jaded, although when you think of jaded, you think of like jade green. Here we have more of a yellowing, so it's almost like a jaundice jaded. In Jane Sheehan's book, Let's Read Our Feet, she talks about the yellowing color anywhere in the foot, meaning that someone is pissed off, to be blunt about it. So maybe Anne's mom, although she rectified that withdrawn mental tendency, more currently she's getting a little bit more agitated mentally than anything, probably because even though she's vocalizing, she's maybe not being heard as much. But also, toenails representing sinuses, that kind of yellowing or jaundice nature of the sinuses means that a potential sinus infection may be on the way as well. Okay. Third marker here, another wonderful example of digestive stress. Thank you, Anne's mom. First two people, definitely a classic marker for irritable bowel. And this is another example of that. Although in Anne's mom's feet, here we have a lot of air constitution going on. We have a lot of length and thinness. We can see a lot of vertical striations in the tissue. We can see a lot of very, very deep lining, even more so than we saw in Suzanne. Here the lining is so pronounced, it's so deep, especially on that right side. So again, when we look at the toes, third and fourth zone, and then here we have third and fourth zone, both are indicating withdrawn and weak tendencies. On the opposite foot, on the left foot, it's not as bad, but here we can really see that blue circle emphasizing that very deep lower digestive and upper digestive weakness, but also a lot of internal core stress physically. Now, Shifting to the left foot, you can see that a lot of that has erased. We can see traces of lining, but nowhere near as bad as the right foot. So there's been a dramatic change in Anne's mom over the past 3 months. I'd say specifically, now that I'm looking at this side of the foot, I'd really give it 2 months time frame. But that severe lining would have meant a lot of digestive problems, that are more weak, so the body would be just unable to digest the food that it would have been given. So that is that. Thank you so much, Anne's mom, for sending in your feet, and we have one more set of feet to go through. And we have Travis. Thank you, Travis, for sending in your feet, and let's hop right into the markers. Okay, this is a very popular, for some reason we're doing all toes in this video. This is a very popular marker, and again, something that my students need to be aware of. Whenever somebody has severe callousing on the inside of the big toe like this, it automatically indicates neck issues. Just as a general rule, the big toes represent head and neck. This medial side of the big toe really representing everything into that deep head and neck space. A lot of atlas axis action going on, and then it's an earth-based symptom. And when we talk about elements like this, earth is the element of rigidity, hardness, stability, and denseness. So here we have a lot of callousing, that hardness, rigidity forming around those neck reflexes, indicating a lot of congestion, and specifically maybe misalignment or lack of fluid movement in the upper cervical vertebra. This would also be a fantastic marker for something like a deviated septum or any kind of structural hardening of the head and neck where it's not being able to kind of expand and contract freely. It's very locked and rigid. We can also see some toe stuff happening as well in terms of the discoloration that might be compounding that. So that is marker number 1. Marker number 2 is a fun one. So this is an interesting conversation when we get to talk about hair on the feet. And not all women have hairless feet and not all men have hairy feet. But here we have an excellent example of hair on the feet. So I thought that I would mention it here. Whenever someone has excess hair on the feet, it does not mean that they're a hobbit. Instead, it means that they are very, very sensitive. Hair is the body's natural protector in terms of like internal cilia, like nose hairs and different kind of hairs around the digestive tract, but hair is a protector for the body. So when we see it on the feet, it indicates somebody who's naturally very sensitive, where the body is growing that hair in order to protect the soft and sensitive tissues. So here we can automatically see that Travis is a little bit more of a kind of gentle soul, but at the same time hides it well. Not as hairy as other feet that I've seen, but there's definitely a significant amount, especially around the toes. So when we look at the mental emotional aspect of that, Travis's thoughts and opinions are also very protected. Not necessarily by choice, but just by nature. He has a lot on his mind. He has very strong big toes, but we also have that earth marker, that restriction, that denseness. So a lot of his thoughts don't really come out as clearly as he would like, probably because he's afraid of, what people would think if XYZ. But oddly enough, if we look at the 5th digit on both sides, no hair on those toes, or very, very little. So Travis's sense of security and how he's moving forward, thoughts about that, are always open to the public. So he's always talking about the next thing that he's doing, the next venture that he wants to pursue. But as far as the 4th digit through the 1st digit, family, career, feelings, and thoughts, those are not vocalized very, very openly. Instead, they're not necessarily withdrawn, but protected. Kind of keeps things close to the vest as far as those thoughts. Perfect example of hair on the feet. Okay, and here is a plantar view. Again, a 3rd digestive marker. I love it. So here we get, first and foremost, if you wanted to shift your gaze up to that big toe again, there's a perfect view of that really intense callousing. We can see a lot of whiteness on the skin of the base of the big toe as well, indicating exhaustion. So definitely a lot of crazy jaw, teeth, sinus, head, atlas axis, upper cervical issues there. But I really want to draw your attention to the circle. because we have color change. And color change in the feet is really significant. It means where circulation either is or isn't occurring. Here we have a lack of circulation around the lower digestive reflexes. There is what we like to call a bleaching or a whitening of the skin. You can tell it by the picture that he's kind of torquing his foot to get a good shot of the feet, but at the same time, that really doesn't matter. It means that when the body is under stress, like a twist or like any kind of other pressure, the area that's going to lose circulation the fastest and first is going to be the gut, the lower GI. So there's a lot of potential for issue there. I would really talk to Travis specifically if he were coming in to see me about how he always gets food poisoning and food never really sits with him right. And that would be really what this marker represents. So upping the probiotics, really having deep discussions about diet, and maybe even the diet is what's causing the hardening of the sinuses. Maybe there's acid reflux tendencies when the body is actually just kind of ejecting the food in an acid reflux manner or over digesting it to try to protect the sensitivity that's in the lower GI, which is really, really common as far as a symptom that I see. But that's all that we have for Travis. Thank you all for sending in your feet. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Anne's mom. And thank you, Travis. This was another fantastic foot reading video series, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Definitely like, subscribe, and comment below. And here is the final word.